Hey everyone, it's Chris Hobart, the Wealthologist, and welcome to the Weekly Wealthologist. Now, for the past couple of weeks, economists they felt kind of like pilots flying through clouds. Lots of opinions out there, but there wasn't a lot of fresh data thanks to the government shutdown. Good news, that is finally changing. The government is turning the data tap back on, and we're starting to get numbers on jobs and spending as well as inflation. And I want to translate what we're seeing into plain English. More importantly, I want to make sure you understand what it could mean for your income and your investments. So, the report that we're looking at, it's what we're calling the No More Flying Blind report, and that's really what's happening. We're starting to see updated readings on jobs for October and November, retail sales for October, as well as new inflation data, especially on what people are paying in rent. Now, I want you to think about all of these reports like your financial dashboard. It's your speed, your fuel, your engine temperature. And we're not going to obsess over every little tick, but we want to watch the direction. All right, so let's start with jobs. The new jobs suggest we're still adding jobs. It's just at a slower pace than before. Now, for retirees and pre-retirees, that slower job growth can sound like recession. But a slowdown isn't the same thing as slamming on the brakes. You see, a cooling job market can actually take some pressure off of inflation, which is good for the prices you pay at the grocery store, at your favorite restaurant, and really when you're booking that next trip. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is retail sales. Basically, how much are people spending? And October, to be honest, looks a little soft, mainly because car and truck sales were the slowest they've been all year. But that slowdown in autos is mostly because a big federal tax credit for electric vehicles expired the end of September, and a lot of people rushed to buy before that deadline. Now, when we strip out autos and then we look at things like restaurants and bars, people, they're still out there living their lives. I was out this past weekend, plenty of people out spending money at restaurants and bars. That tells us consumers aren't hiding in a bunker. They're not afraid to spend, they're just normalizing after a rush. Now, the big question everyone asks is where is inflation going and what will the Fed do with interest rates? Now, this week's report pays special attention to rents, what people are actually paying to live in their homes. Now, over the last year, rent inflation has clearly slowed compared to the year before. That is definitely a sign of inflation cooling, not heating up. Now, we don't see a world of falling prices across the board, but we do see pressure easing, which we all kind of like. Now, the Federal Reserve, they're watching this closely because it helps determine how many rate cuts they can make in 2026. Now, right now, the Fed's official forecast is basically saying maybe one small cut next year. But here's the thing, markets are quietly betting on more than that. And this latest research suggests two or even more cuts are very possible if the economy and inflation keep slowing gently. So, what does all this mean if you're retired or you're pre retirement or you're thinking about it? First of all, slower inflation is good news for your day to day spending in retirement. Second, potential rate cuts mean we'll keep an eye on how your income strategy is balanced between cash and bonds, as well as growth investments. And third, it's a great reminder that a solid retirement plan shouldn't depend on predicting every twist and turn in the data because we just can't. We assume markets are going to zig and zag, and we focus on keeping your income steady and your plan flexible. Bottom line, we're not seeing a cliff moment in the data. We're seeing a gradual slowdown that for many retirees and pre retirees and people in general, it actually takes a little of the heat out of the system. Now, if you're wondering how this new wave of economic data fits your specific retirement picture, maybe your travel plans, your giving goals, your legacy, well, that's exactly what we're here for. You can find some time to schedule a conversation with our team or join us at an upcoming Hobart Wealth live event that we've got coming out later this week, and we'll talk through it together in plain English. All right, folks, Chris Hobart here. Thanks again for spending a few minutes with me today, and I'll see you next week.